Hey friend, have you ever been in a room full of noise and felt like your silence made you invisible? Have you ever held 1,000 thoughts in your head, but couldn't find the courage to speak even one? This story is for the ones who were always told to sit still, stay quiet, not make a fuss. The ones who believed their voice didn't matter until the world needed it most. Her name was Renee Carter. She was the kind of girl teachers forgot to call on. Not because she wasn't smart, but because she never raised her hand. She wore oversized sweatshirts, kept her hair in a low bun, and walked the halls like a shadow. Always holding her books tight to her chest, always in the back of the room. She wasn't shy because she had nothing to say. She was quiet because, somewhere along the way, she'd been taught her voice didn't carry. When she was 8, she stood up to a group of kids making fun of another girl at recess. She told them to stop, loud, clear, brave. They laughed in her face, called her a know-it-all. A teacher scolded her for making a scene. That moment carved itself into her bones. So she decided maybe silence was safer. By high school, Renee had perfected the art of invisibility. She'd walk into a classroom, find the seat in the last row, open her notebook, and vanish. She got straight A's. She was never late. She turned in every assignment on time. But no one knew her favorite book. No one knew she wrote poetry in the margins of her math notes. No one knew she had a voice that could make people cry, because no one ever heard it. The world looked right through her, and she let it. She lived with her grandmother in a small apartment across from the train tracks. Her mom had passed when Renee was little, and her dad wasn't in the picture. Her grandmother was kind, the kind of woman who baked too much and hugged too hard. She'd tell Renee, "You've got your mama's fire in you." But Renee didn't feel like fire. She felt like fog. Then came senior year, and with it, a storm she never saw coming. It was just a Tuesday, nothing special. The school announced a mandatory assembly for the entire senior class. Something about student voice and community leadership. Renee, as usual, slipped into the back row of the auditorium and kept her eyes down. The principal welcomed everyone, then passed the mic to the head of the school board, a sharp-suited man with a clipboard and a speech prepared. He began talking about budget cuts, how art classes might be eliminated, how soft subjects like creative writing and theater weren't essential. Renee froze. Writing was her life. Theater was the only place she'd ever seen herself reflected. In stories, in characters who didn't need to be loud to matter. Her fingers gripped her notebook tighter. But she said nothing, until the man made a joke. A small, offhand comment. "I doubt we'll miss a few kids reciting poetry in the dark." Some students chuckled. Something in Renee cracked. She didn't remember standing, didn't remember walking to the front. She just knew 1 second she was invisible, and the next, she was holding the mic. The room went still, all eyes on the quiet girl in the hoodie. Someone whispered, "Is that Renee?" She cleared her throat. Her voice shook at first, but it didn't break. And when she spoke, she didn't read from her notebook. She looked straight at the man who had joked about poetry and said, "Maybe you've never needed words the way some of us do. Maybe you've never had to write your pain because saying it out loud would make it real. But there are kids in this school who survive by creating. Kids who don't raise their hands, but write their hearts. And when you take that away, you're not just cutting a program. You're cutting a lifeline." The auditorium was silent. Every breath held. Even the board member blinked, unsure how to respond. And Renee, she handed the mic back, walked off stage, and changed everything. That moment went viral. Someone had recorded it on their phone. By the next day, it had 1.2 million views. "She spoke for the silent ones," the caption read. Suddenly, Renee was being asked to speak on panels, in podcasts, in news interviews. At first, she wanted to hide. She almost did. But her grandmother sat her down and said, You were quiet because no one listened. Now that they're listening, don't stop. So she didn't. She started a blog, The Back Row Diaries. Wrote about growing up invisible, about grief, about being a girl who felt too much in a world that didn't ask her how she felt at all. And people read it. Thousands of people. Other quiet ones who whispered "me too" with every post. By graduation, Renee wasn't the girl in the back anymore. She gave the valedictorian speech, not because her GPA was the highest, it wasn't, but because the school voted for her. She stood on that stage in a soft blue dress, hair in gentle curls, voice steady and full. She looked out at the sea of students and said, "Being quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're listening. And sometimes, the ones who listen the hardest have the most powerful things to say." Years later, Renee became a youth advocate, not because she planned to, but because one email turned into 10, then 50. Teens reaching out from all over the country, telling her they felt invisible, asking her what to do when no one heard them. So she built a platform, not a loud one, not flashy, just a space called Hushed Voices, where kids could write their stories, post their art, speak their truth without fear of being shut down. And they came, one by one, the artists, the dreamers, the ones who thought silence meant smallness, until they saw themselves in someone like Renee. She never forgot the girl who sat in the back, because she still was that girl, just with a microphone now. She never screamed. She never shouted. She just told the truth, softly. And somehow, the world listened. So if you've ever been the quiet one, if you've ever thought your voice didn't matter, let this be your reminder. Silence doesn't mean absence. Stillness doesn't mean weakness. And quiet doesn't mean you don't have something powerful to say. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one mic, one decision to stand up and speak, not because the world is ready, but because you are. What moment gave you your voice? Were you the quiet one in the back? Drop a comment, your story matters here. Subscribe for more cinematic stories that remind you, even the softest voice can echo the loudest change.